and it was incredible. It was a lab school. A lot of people around the world would come visit and sort of see, a lot of people in the education world, what it is that they were doing that they could bring back to their schools and this and that. And there was one particular class called Synthesis, that it was simulations that Josh would create in person, with real problems that kids had to solve in teams and compete against each other. And so the kids were developing a lot of soft skills that are crucial to the real world. And so, for example, like how to build a Tesla supercharger. Like if you were to move the SpaceX campus to Texas, like what would be the pros? What would be the cons? How would you do this? Like real things. And then the kids had to sort of like, sometimes it would take days or weeks to come up with the answer. There were a bunch of conundrums. And so there was a lot of real learning going on. And so one of the guys I went to visit, his name's Chrisman Frank, he was working at another educational education company at the time. And he was like, this is incredible. I cannot believe that only this 48 kids have access to Synthesis and to Ad Astra, which was the name of the school. There has to be a way to put this online. And so he spoke to Josh, and it was right into the pandemic, like when the pandemic hit. And so they grabbed Synthesis, which was their most popular class, and they put it into software. And so the simulations, instead of being in person, they were now on software. And so you had kids from all over the world joining these sessions and thinking together to solve these problems. And it was mixed age groups. And so they invited me to join one of the beta testing sessions. So Chrisman Frank, who's the CEO of Synthesis, he had been following my newsletter and sort of my Twitter account. And he liked the way that I spoke about alternative education. And he was like, this girl would like what we're doing. And he was right. I was blown away. A lot of the things that I talk about of what the future of education should look like or would look like in my mind is exactly what they were thinking about. And again, they were getting started, but their vision was very solid and very aligned with mine. And so I was just fascinated by the fact that the kids were at the edge of their seats, the language that they were using, the empowerment that they felt as they were solving these problems. And I'm talking about 8-year-olds, like from 8 to 14, like you couldn't really tell who was who, like who were the older kids, who were the younger. They were just taking full on control over their learning. And they were learning about all sorts of stuff. We did not give them, instructions. The kids were failing, and their attitudes towards failing were like, oh, whatever, let's keep going. I'm going to figure this out. And a lot of things that I did not see in the classroom, and a lot of excitement and hunger for learning. And so I was just blown away. And so I joined them to sort of like share what they were doing with the rest of the world and help them build their vision. And so that was almost 3 years ago now. And now this year we launched, so we had like all these team simulations with kids from all over the globe that would join and play this different simulations where they would learn mental models and how to extrapolate this to the real world. But now what we're doing is we launched a digital tutor called the Synthesis Tutor this year. And it's just revolutionary because what it does is it teaches, we plan to teach every core subject, like all the STEM subjects. We started with math, and you can actually try it out for free, a demo online if you go to synthesis.com/tutor. But it's fascinating. I invite everyone listening to this to try it out because you really feel like you are interacting with a human. It's kind of crazy. Like the kids actually think that it's a human behind the chat and behind the voice. And they teach you in a way, like kids are learning at a pace that's like, what kids would learn in 3 years in math in school, these kids are learning in a month. And it's just unreal because after they take all the little tests, you ask them a open-ended question, or, you give them a problem where they have to apply what they're learning and they can actually do it, which is one of my biggest frustrations as a teacher, was that after the test, I gave them a problem. It's like, okay, guys, so we learned about this. They did not know what to do. And I was like, you guys aced the test. How do you not know? They all forgot. That's not real learning. Here, the learning is sticking. And so I started to be like, okay, what is it that we're doing that's different? And what happens is that we are using, well, first of all, the way that the tutor works is that we find an expert in a field. In this case, we hired Dr. Tanton, who's like a Princeton PhD mathematics professor that has written a bunch of books. He's not only is he an expert in math and very passionate about his subject, he's also an excellent teacher. So he has that ability to really engage you and entertain you through stories, and has the patience and the examples. And so we record him for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then the tutor picks up on everything from Dr. Tanton. And so when you are learning math, it's now every kid around the globe has access to learning math from Dr. Tanton. And we plan to do that with every subject. And so finally, you have a teacher that's like infinitely patient. I was telling you that when I was a teacher, I would have loved to sit with, little Rohit and stay with you until you understood before moving on, but I could not do that. I had other 29 kids that I had to attend. I had a curriculum I had to follow. So everything was like, let's move on. A lot of kids end up not learning the basics of math, for example, which are fundamental in order to develop a coherent picture of everything. And so here, no, the tutor stays with you as long as you need. And if you're a kid that picks it up really quickly, you don't get bored because the tutor knows that. So they move you on to the next level and you learn the next thing. And everything has an explanation. Everything makes it's coherent. Kids know what they're learning. Like the curriculum that we're putting together finally makes sense to me as a teacher. In school, I was always like, why are we learning this now? Like, I don't see the connection. Here, it's like, wow, I understand. It sort of follows like the story of math. And I'm very passionate about this. So I could keep talking about it. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I'm very excited about the possibility of having something like this, because if we're able to condense the one-to-one tutoring, which, by the way, we know that the best way to learn something is with a tutor, one-on-one. That's like how Aristotle and Alexander the Great and all this, great minds would learn in the past. If we're able to give that to students, they would learn a lot faster. They can get the learning, the hardcore academics out of the way quickly, and then have the rest of the day to be kids, to learn about what they're interested in, to build a business if they want to go to sport, to do whatever it is that they want to do. I feel like a lot of kids are losing their childhood because they're stuck in school for so long. And then, the day ends and then they have after school activities and homework. And when do they have a chance to be kids? When do they have a chance to be creative? And so I'm very optimistic about the possibility of this tutor to sort of bring back a lot of these things that are crucial for children. So